BIM 360 adoption. Well, I should say first and foremost, good afternoon. Thank you for attending my shtick on how I've come to see BIM 360 as a welcomed game changer. So look, I think we can all agree scope is getting larger on the regular from designers anyway. Scope is getting larger, schedules getting shorter, and budget smaller. So one needs to really be able to do more in less time. I'm in constant pursuit and finding opportunities to just tackle that very effort. Always looking to do more in less time, adding efficiencies, adding streamlines, adding functionality, but all in the long run to do more and less. So anyway, I should also say, just to be clear, I do not work for Autodesk. I do not. I work for Perkins and Will, a glorious firm, of course, at that. But you should know I do not work for Autodesk. I do believe that there are flaws in most every one of their products. But what isn't without flaws? I mean, I could find opportunities to complain, which, by the way, I have, and I've noted on their forums. There's many opportunities where they could perform better. But I could also just get pumped about those opportunities, really, that lend themselves to proper innovation. And I think that we're in front of one right now. So that's where I am today. So yes, reflecting again, I do work for one of the largest firms in the world, Perkins and Will. You know, attaboy to myself and to the firm itself. It's pretty, of course, incredible. But having said that, I'm asking you to take advantage of the time that we are allotted being a part of this large firm with the budget that we have, that we've assigned to really flexing tools like BIM 360 amongst other tools. And I want you to take advantage of that and really bring them to your own studios. Okay. So that's where I'm at. And that's where I feel like I'm going to be pitching BIM 360 today, because I do genuinely believe this is proper innovation. This isn't just some new functionality, new feature that, you know, is cool to have, but rather this changes the game, and I think that we can benefit from it. Let me go ahead and advance the next slide. Oop. Come on, there it is. All right. So, am I, Justin Benjamin, a big deal? My 3-year-old son thinks so. But I'll bump. So I tend to think, sure, why not? So as you can pull from my credentials, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. I've been a part of the design process, and I've spent ample time playing with both technology that supports the process as well as actually in the field building and construction content. Much of my time has been focused on rolling out innovation, and that's where I think I'm especially proficient in adoption and rolling out innovation as it relates to adoption. You know, I always say, after all, innovation without adoption is in fact a distraction. And I think that really should resonate. It's one thing to have a cool idea and cool feature, but if it's not adopted, all you're doing is distracting people from their everyday, saying, how cool is this? And they don't adopt it, so they keep moving on. And you're just a distraction, you just took away from their otherwise productive day. So I think it's pretty important. So yeah, anyway, you're welcome to screenshot this slide for future validation of my credentials or Google me later. That said, let's just get right into it. BIM 360. My attack on today's agenda is less about marketing what is possible, but noting how we, Perkins and Will, have taken advantage of what's possible in a digestible, adoptable way. Okay. So with the assumption most of us are, in fact, aware of BIM 360, and are intrigued as to what it has to offer, I will share how I strategized on rolling it out to the studios that I support, which in this case is both New York and Washington, D.C. So I have 26 studios I support, generally 2 of them. So yeah, so there's phase 1, BIM 360 for model managers, 2 for project architects, 3 project managers, and of course I've had a handful of closing remarks. So a moment for brutal honesty to everybody that's listening in. I do not want this presentation to feel like I'm reading from a deck, which is what I'm currently kind of doing as we speak. I've curated my slides to complement what I hope to convey. I will be speaking to them relatively organically, which also means it will likely feel both organic and slightly random. That's just how I present. I find these types of presentations relatively entertaining. I hope that you do as well. Kind of stands out from your typical tutorials. But having said that, I welcome questions. I really do handle well impromptu questions, and if I don't see them in the thread, I will certainly respond to them at the end. Okay, so let's just do it. Let's go crazy. Some initial considerations when it comes to my approach. Adoption broken into project digestible phases. You can't just tell a project, hey, look, here's a new tool, take it on. Here's BIM 360. All of its features, all the different modules, all of its capability. Just do it. Why aren't you using all the things that I've just showed you? Even in proper commercial, one would say, oh, we should do this. There's value there. But to try to really change the trajectory of staff to really lend itself to this new innovation, I just don't know that it's really reasonable. And I tend to think that most efforts fail as a result. So you should know that all of the phases that I'm promoting, the model manager, project architect, project managers, I focus on setup effort per phase, and I try to make it again so that there's very minimal setup effort. So as long as you're tackling just that phase, and I also make it so that the skill set per phase is super minimal, again, per phase. Now, arguably, as you go to the next phase, there is an understanding that you have a skill set beyond the phase prior kind of thing. So I'm always building, right? So that's also what I'm pitching here today. Outside of the initial setup effort and the skill minimized, I'm suggesting that we attempt to spoon feed features to support broader functionality. This seems kind of obvious, but like, even with Revit, when you try and train people in Revit for that matter, it's like you could say, hey, look, build off a sheet, schedules and legends and views. Oh my God, there's so much going on. That's very cool, and it's great for staff to be familiar with what's possible, but that's not how they're going to start day one. Day one is like, oh my God, how do I get to week 4 for that matter versus day 1? And I could just easily see how people again quickly get overwhelmed and then ultimately dismiss. So all of my phases again are both focused on the effort or skill needed to adopt that phase, as well as just what functions I'm asking them to try to take advantage of. Also, so BIM 360 is in fact in my mind an actual innovation. Okay, so when I think innovation, I think it has to fall under 2 umbrellas. That's something that my firm probably hears me preach on a regular. And that is, it either A, adds efficiency or streamlines an existing process, or B, adds relative functionality. And we'll talk about what I mean by relative functionality in a little bit. But the fact is that if you adopt what I'm ultimately pushing, the value is going to be obvious, both in time as well as in money. So that's, again, what I'll be focusing on today. And that, again, to clarify, is I'm not looking to add function where it's not necessary. I often think about, like, if I were like Elon Musk, and I'm designing the newest, be it Tesla for that matter, adding the functionality of a toaster oven to the Tesla, that might seem, hey, look, my cars not only move quickly and rely on, electric versus gas energy, you can also toast your bread. Yeah, it's new function, but it's not especially relevant. It's one thing to be able to do something. It's another thing that makes it necessary. So again, I'll be adding functionality where it's necessary, not just because it's a cool thing to do. It's again why I think value in BIM 360. This is the biggest ask that I'm going to be projecting to you folks. There is full, complete participation from all members of a project, and that doesn't mean just the production staff. I think when you start a project in BIM 360, you invite everybody. I'm talking the junior production staff, the PAs, the PMs, the principal in charge, the owner, the CM, you name it. Everybody that's associated with the project should have access to BIM 360 like they would any other glorified FTP site. I actually tend to think that this replaces most FTP sites in the long run. So as long as you see its value, I mean, that's what BIM 360 is. It's really a specialized FTP site that lends itself really to architects more so than the general public. So you need to invite everybody, and they need to be okay clicking a link that gets into this FTP site like they would SharePoint or Box, things like that. Like, this is the new FTP site. The more people see this like that, the easier it is for staff to adopt. Also, per phase, as you saw in my agenda, model managers, project architects, project managers, those are the staff that are responsible for the successful execution of that phase in BIM 360. It cannot be on some, like for me, I'm a design application manager for Perkins and Will. I'm a consultant to my studio and to the firm. I'm not really on projects. To put the ownership on me to suggest that or to roll out BIM 360 on teams, that only goes so far. It's those people that are on the projects that are responding to clients and sharing models, that it's really on the team to really own adoption. So I'm prepared to provide all the information that's necessary and to help troubleshoot and consult. But each one of my phases gives ownership to its successful adoption to a role on the team. So it's important that staff realize that and they take that role on. So let's keep going. Phase one. Who's excited? This guy is. So yes, each phase is, again, successful adoption is the responsibility of the role noted in the phase, in this case, model managers. By that I mean just the staff that are typically in charge of model sharing, and of course then some. Okay, so let's talk about it. What does this phase particularly mean? Phase one, model managers. I'm suggesting that utilizing the BIM 360 document management module, and we'll talk about what these modules really are in the long run. Our focus today, though, is going to be on efficiency, minimizing the time and effort in design collaboration. So specifically, the objectives are to basically remove any effort when it comes to model sharing. If you own a license to BIM 360, there's no reason for you to ever worry about that weekly effort of sending your latest model to somebody and receiving their latest, replacing it on your network and like repathing, all that good stuff. That should all be gone. That should all go away. That's an immediate cost savings. No longer are we concerned about getting the latest version of somebody's model, but rather providing our updates. So model sharing, I say not via Informa in this objective here. That's me talking to Perkins and Will, because at one point we utilized Informa as our FTP site, and sharing content was a conscious effort every week to send our updates and receive new ones. The next thing for this objective is to migrate off of the network and utilize BIM 360 for model hosting. This is only possible with a subscription to BIM 360. And again, Perkins Will has implemented just that. And that means moving our files from the network to the cloud. And there are so many benefits in doing that. It's not just a matter of saving in a new location, but rather being able to open access content that's on the cloud so much more faster, so much more quickly rather than doing the same versus a network. Accessing the same files on the network, just the lag, especially if you're working remotely, is just visible, astronomical and visible for that matter. And then once you have your model hosted off your network and on the cloud, and you're sharing seamlessly, why not go a step further and optimize on the FTP site functionality? And you'll see exactly what I mean by that in just a little bit. I mean, basically giving your owners, your clients, even the principals at your studio, the ability to open up your Revit file without, opening up your Revit file, really. I'd argue the effort here when it comes to setup it's not even 30 minutes. Creating a project in 360 and hosting a file on there is like 10 minutes, but I said 30 because why not? Maybe it's the first time doing it. The minute, it's super minimal effort. Once you do it once or twice, it's so seamless, it's crazy. The maintenance, I say 30 minutes. It could actually be 0 minutes. If all disciplines are hosted on BIM 360, meaning they all also have subscriptions to BIM 360, there is no maintenance. It's just, once you host your model, there's 0 time and effort every week to get in updates. However, if you do have some consultants that don't have a license to BIM 360 but have just been invited to your project, they still have to upload their model and download our updates, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But even that effort, again, is crazy minimal, especially again when compared to FTP sites. As far as our status at Perkins and Will, I'd say this is 100% complete. There's not a single project, I think, that's on the network. Like this was, once the pandemic hit, it kind of, taking the good out of a bad situation. It was the impetus to really migrate off our network to the cloud and just play it like wholeheartedly. All of our projects are on BIM 360. And then the comments here in this case, I'd argue that the core of BIM 360 is this module. Now, if you don't, again, have a license and maybe you're just invited to some other module like project management or something like that, you can still benefit from BIM 360, but that won't be the focus of me today. And I honestly think that the value of having the most basic account with Autodesk or with BIM 360 gives you full access to document management, and this is the core. So if you're looking to price this out, like what do you need? I would say the document management module is critical. When it comes to model sharing, this is, I think, pretty relatable. There are really 2 basic scenarios that one has to consider. The first scenario is with this. So let's get away for a moment that we'll assume that you have an account with BIM 360 and you've hosted your model on BIM 360. We'll talk about live linking in a little bit, but let's just think about all those consultants that honestly haven't committed yet, and there's plenty of them. So in this first scenario, we're talking about those consultants that still have their Revit file hosted on their local area network. right? Some P drive or J drive or whatever. It's on the local network, and that's where they're creating locals off of. Okay, that's the scenario. Well, their typical everyday is still via Revit to create locals off of their network. So we're not asking them to do anything different than they've already done. By participating in BIM 360, we're just saying still do you. Be crazy, go crazy. However, when it comes to weekly model updates, they're going to have to go online, browse the BIM 360 website, open the folder respective to their discipline. We'll talk about that. Click on upload linked files and then upload their latest model. And it will control their versions. It will know what the difference is from one model to the next. But that's how they will update, the consultants with their model. Now, of course, to get the latest versions of the other models, they'll have to then download from the other folders that are respective of the consultants. They'll have to download those files. Really, this is no different than what they've probably likely done in the past when it comes to any other FTP site. So we're just asking them, instead of going to SharePoint or Box, to just go to BIM 360. So again, by adopting BIM 360, we're not asking any consultant to do anything they haven't already done. However, if they do have a license to BIM 360, they get to participate in scenario 2. And scenario 2 is clearly and hopefully the most obvious gain when it comes to why one would adopt BIM 360. So the typical everyday here is via Revit, create locals by browsing to the BIM 360 and working off the cloud. So when you launch Revit, especially if you're signed into Desktop Connector, which is a technicality which one can argue or describe, be it later on today or on your own. Once you're logged in, you'll see all the projects you've been invited to just by launching Revit. No file open, but rather launching Revit, you'll see a splash screen. It'll say BIM 360 projects or Plugin docs, and you just select the project that you're working on today, and then you select your central file, and it creates locals on the regular. It's very simple. But you are, in fact, instead of saying file open going through the network, you are, in fact, accessing your file via the cloud and creating locals accordingly. But arguably, there's really very little difference every day from browsing to your local network versus browsing to BIM 360. It's minimal. You're just different paths. The model updates, well, we at Perkins and Will do passionately believe in live linking. This is often rather a contentious topic. Live linking means that when someone saves to central, you see their updates. So if you're the mechanical disciplines, you have a mechanical model and they save to central, you're going to, in the architectural model, see their updates when you save to central. Yeah, daily, multiple times a day, all that good stuff. And with all the concern from staff saying, oh, what if I move walls? What if I'm playing with ceilings? I don't know where I'm doing, what I'm going. I don't want them to see just in that moment what I'm doing. And by they, I mean the other disciplines. It's been 2 years. And more than 95% of our projects are live linking. That's not a concern. It really isn't. In my mind, I'd say go live linking, pursue it initially because it's by far the simplest and it removes all model sharing entirely. If after 2 weeks you somehow see a concern or issue, you can modify how you link. You can actually just reload from path differently from the live model to some consumed model, which we'll talk about later on. But I'd always start live linking, and I tend to think that honestly, you're not gonna feel the pain. You really won't. And if you do, you can always change your method later on in the game. So yeah, so typical every day for working on BIM 360 is to open up your files via BIM 360, work accordingly. And with the model updates, there is no uploading or downloading. You're seeing the live links. And even if, say, some of your consultants are hosting by uploading on a weekly basis because they don't have a subscription to BIM 360, you're seeing their uploads dynamically. So if they upload on Friday at 5 o'clock, at 5:02, it will reload, or if you say reload from, it will just update in your environment, like in your live hosted model in BIM 360. So even for those consultants that are uploading manually, there's no effort on your part to see those updates. There's no download on a weekly basis. So again, all that effort on a weekly effort is removed. As far as collaboration goes, it should be known that the web interface, when you access BIM 360 via the web, you're only seeing published models. That doesn't mean the central model. There are local models, like local Revit files that everybody typically is accustomed to working in. There are central models that you sync and update in a regular. But then there are published models, which a published model is basically taking the central model and publishing it on a moment that is worth a milestone. Like it's like often staff might think, oh, let's publish a model once a week. publish your model once a month or per milestone. I'd argue that's silliness. I'd publish your models if you can automate it, which you can, daily. Well, it's just, even for those, even if you only want, I guess you can automate so it's weekly, but honestly, I think publish models on a daily basis also makes sense because there's an effort in archiving. Anyway, I got to move on, but there's ample discussion just right here in this window when it comes to the effort it takes to participate in BIM 360 with or without a license. So let's dive deeper. Model sharing, accessing the website, docs.b360.autodesk.com. I think anybody and everybody, even right now, screenshot this. Whether or not you're on a BIM 360 project now, you will likely be on one in the future. And if you are on a project now and you go to this website, you'll see those projects accessible to you. This is a very generic location to BIM 360. Once you sign into this location with your Autodesk credentials, you'll see all the projects that you've been invited to, and you can navigate from that location. So, look at that. I was invited to some other. There you go. Sorry about that. So yeah, once you access the website, you shouldn't be overwhelmed. You'll be able to click on the top part of the website. So again, the assumption that you're invited to more than one project, you exit the site first, and then you click on the project that you wish to navigate to. Once you click on the project, I'd argue that you want to then select which module you want to access. I'll be focusing exclusively today on 3 modules. And I was told by my boss to not mention some, when it comes to our subscription versus your subscription, it's really what you want access to. I would say just make note the document management module is the most critical. So whatever that cost is, you probably want it. The Insight module is, I think, pretty much free, and it's associated to the document management, but I could be wrong, but you might want to make note of that as well as far as the cost impact. The other module I'll be talking a lot about today is the model coordination module. The model coordination module, and we'll say it more than one time later on. Those are the 3 modules that I think you should care about and maybe look into investing in. To be clear, what I'm not mentioning is the design collaboration module. Again, write that down. I do not appreciate, I do not like lessons learned. I do not want the design collaboration module. I think that module is a wash. And I think it's if it's costly, I say just dismiss it. You can do everything design collaboration module does manually without the errors, and it's all per user. And I'm welcome. I'd be game to go deeper as to what I mean by that later on. But the design collaboration module, don't let them pitch it to you. All right. So once you're on the document management module, as I am here, you can at this point you can have a series of folders. Now, at a bare minimum, you're going to have this plans and project files substructure, like Revit categories. You can't rename them, you can't add to them. That's the minimal folder structure of document management. So again, plans, project files. The folders under them, completely custom to whatever your company wishes to pursue. This for Perkins and Will is constantly changing. We're evolving, lessons learned as to what we want and how we want to organize content. You're seeing under plans, I'm just suggesting that we do have a couple of folders there. They're ideal for project milestones. They have sets. They what a set would be is like PDFs that are sheets that are maybe common between like benchmarks like bid, permit, construction, I don't know, revision, whatever. You have sets that kind of also connect them. So there's this taxonomy that helps you there. So that's plans. But under project files, it's the beast. Project files is really where most of the work happens. So we do have a shared docs under project files, which is basically everything but the Revit files. This is where we keep maybe some working PDFs. We use Clarity that essentially print PDFs on a daily basis of our content. It saves them up there so people can see maybe what we're working on a day-to-day basis via PDF. We also have a BIM execution plan and anything else under shared docs that might be just general to the team or project. Again, this is an FTP site. You're welcome to put whatever you want there. We also have all of our Revit working models. So if you look at every other folder beyond the shared docs, it's specific to the company or discipline. And this is where you'd have your live Revit files and any CAD links nested inside of them. There shouldn't be any archives under these locations. Again, this is the lessons learned. Under these folders, there should just be the live model that someone should be very clear that this is what I want to link to. Any working or archived model should be saved off of the network, off of BIM 360, but somewhere else. There is a model coordination folder I put here, and it lends itself to the clash coordination effort, which I'll talk to you in a little bit. Folder permissions. Again, this is another lessons learned. So every folder, looking back, So all these project files is a folder, shared documents is a folder nested within other project files, and so forth and so on. All these folders have permissions. And the way that we've learned to do permissions at Perkins and Will is like initially when it came to, well, company was obvious. We always assigned the right company to the right, when I added a user, I put the company they're associated with. When it came to the role, we put a lot of time initially into identifying electrical engineer, structural engineer, mechanical engineer, all these good things. But that was inconsistent. And honestly, if you think about it, this company and role aspect of the membership is completely specific, or the value there rather is as it relates to folder permissions. So if you're just adding an electrical engineer because, hey, they are the electrical engineer and I should add them because that's who they are, there's really no, how are you extracting that person's position as it relates to this project, like, and bringing value? You're not. You're only really caring about role and company as it relates to folder permissions. So what we've learned at Perkins and Will is to simplify the folder permissions to role, as far as I'm concerned, is if you're not Perkins and Will, you're a consultant. You could be owner, you could be engineer, you could be a CM, I don't care. You're not Perkins and Will, so you're a consultant. And then the company is super reliable in that, generally speaking, when somebody adds a team member to the project, they always assign the appropriate company. And with that permissioning, you're able to then go into the document management module. So you see me under project files, clicking the three dots. On the top folder here, I've basically said that anybody assigned to consultant can view content and download it, but can't upload or edit. I did assign Perkins Will the company to, because we have the license to have the ability to actually do a little bit more per folder. But what I also did is that by doing that, that's the project files, like not the parent permission, but then we go to each folder and we assign that company to have editable rights to that folder. So this way, each folder under project files, its permissions are dictated by the company, much more reliable than the role. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm gonna keep going, but it's pretty important. It was a big lessons learned for us. If you wish to collaborate your file in BIM 360, so the assumption here at this point is that you do have a subscription to BIM 360. It's pretty simple. Oh, I do see some Q&A. I'll tell you what, only because I fear that I'm going to get behind. I'm going to go back to the Q&A in a little bit, okay? But I love the questions. Keep posting them. When it comes to pushing your file onto BIM 360, in the past, that have been doing like this save as like environment. You open your file, you start with a template specific to your firm, you saved it to your local area network, like the P drive or whatever. In this case, all we're asking you to do is, instead of saving it locally, go to the Collaborate ribbon, click Collaborate in Cloud, and then with the assumption the project's already been created on BIM 360, which is done by your project, your studio admin, you just browse to your project and you save it in the respective folder. Super simple. So instead of save as, you say Collaborate in Cloud, boom, done. The next window, publish sets. This is the most underutilized function, I think, that we've got going on for us that we really want to make note of. So when you publish a file, all right, that's what you see on BIM 360. I'm going to show in a little bit, me going to the website and accessing the content, the file via BIM 360. When you click on the Revit file via BIM 360, you only see the views that have been associated as published sets. So if I don't assign a published set, but rather just save and collaborate my file in BIM 360 and do nothing else, I'll just see some default axon that can orbit or rotate, but I have no control over phasing, design options, the shot or perspective. I certainly am not seeing any of the sheets. I'm not seeing any of these specific things that I might see value in. So after you collaborate in Cloud, and this can be done anytime, that day, 2 weeks later, a year later, whatever, go to publish sets, create a couple of sets. I have one by default that's called 2D, and I've assigned some like default sheets to that. So the same way that when you say, go to print, if you're printing PDFs or hard copies, you might print, instead of printing a single sheet, you go to that sheet set option and you pick a series of sheets that you want to print, so you're not doing one at a time. Those are sheet sets. And so for the same difference, you create a new sheet set, call it 2D, and assign like some core sheets that you might want to see when you select that file when you go to BIM 360. And the same thing for 3D views, and you'll see what that value is in a second. So if you do that, if you collaborate your file successfully, and then you go to the BIM 360 website and you access the ARC folder and you click on the Revit model, unlike any other FTP site, like Box or whatever, you're actually now immersed inside the model. So when I click on the model, notice how now I'm looking at this 3D series of views. And so sure enough, the team in this particular project created some camera shots called entrance, medium conference, office print, office storage, pantry, etc. Could be axons, could be perspectives. They assigned a print set to those 3D views so that when it's collaborated, you could cycle between those. They did the same thing for 2D views. Now, I want to be very, very clear when it comes to these 2D views. These are not the same thing as PDFs. They look like the same thing as PDFs in the sense that you're seeing a sheet, you're seeing a title block, you're seeing the view inside of it. But unlike a PDF, you can click on this Place Me feature, which is what I'm kind of highlighting in the bottom center of the screenshot. You say Place Me, and you can select anywhere in the plan, click a direction, and all of a sudden, you're immersed in that direction. And now you're looking at these PDFs, and it's no longer this two-dimensional world, but rather now you're able to walk it. You're able to navigate through that pantry, see what's going on. There's no limitation. You can look behind you, you can look forward, you can walk, you can look around. It's all super great. Now, I want to be very clear, and then of course, when you're done looking around, you can click to exit. Before I go too crazy and leave what it's like to have published sets, I should give you a disclaimer. This again was a lessons learned. The fewer the views associated to published sets, the better. So I had some staff like, oh my golly, I'm going to go ahead and assign my entire permit set. I no longer care about PDFs. I'm just going to use my Revit model with my published sets as my method of looking at my updated sheets, because I have two separate avenues for content. The challenge there is that the more views assigned to a published set, the longer it takes to publish. So to publish to whatever you're looking at on Revit, on BIM 360, that website, you're looking at the published model. So let's just say it's 12 o'clock and you have a meeting at 1 o'clock. And oh golly, I need to have the latest updates that I did at 11:30 accessible to me at 1 o'clock for this meeting with a client. And I want to navigate that content via this website. Well, publishing shouldn't really take that long depending on the size of the file, but it will absolutely take longer if you have a lot of views and sheets assigned to the published set. So definitely have all the necessary views associated to published set that you want, but just know that if you're having just details and other discipline sheets just for the sake of having them assigned to published sets, it's going to take longer to publish and it's going to hurt you. I mean, I've seen it take upwards around 2, 3, 4 hours for like 200 sheets of content. And so it's best to have just what you need with your base plans, your base 3D views, have those as published sets, and rely on PDFs to properly navigate. Having said that, I do have a folder under shared docs that would hold all my PDFs and staff can navigate them just fine. They just can't immerse inside of them. Again, under shared docs, we have everything from execution plans, meeting minutes. You can put anything you want there. In fact, what I found out recently, and I don't think that we're limited to what I'm about to share, but what I found out recently is that you can open up a PDF and add comments and call outs. You can also open up a Word doc, and just like if opening it off a SharePoint, it'd be live and you can edit it simultaneously with multi-users. Other file formats are also becoming available, but for example, Excel files you can access. Excel file, if you were to open up a file from Excel off of BIM 360, it would launch a static version of it on your desktop. But I tend to think more and more interoperability is coming its way. Everything I'm talking about when it comes to website access is also available via mobile access. So if you have an iPhone or Android, apparently according to my boss, I'm using an icon that reflects iPhone 2. Pretty sure. I don't know what version that would be. But basically what I'm trying to show is one's ability to open up the BIM 360 app off your mobile device, navigate to your project, which is I'm doing right now. So let it search in the project. I'm going to open up its documents in a second. Watch this GIF play. Select the Revit file. Once inside the Revit file, I can cycle between sheets or views, as I suggested earlier. But then I can just, again, navigate on the phone. I want to be very clear. I'm not a gamer. No, I'm not. Having said that, I'm able to navigate pretty easily on my phone. I'm actually quite impressed how easy it is to navigate around a project on your mobile device. In fact, I think in a moment I'm showing Axon. Yeah, I can spin it, rotate it. Think about all those cut up catered views that you want to show a client, get their insight on maybe in that moment or even for a presentation, how great this would be as a resource. And it's all right there. It's all very live, linked to your model, no effort. So as long as you're publishing in a regular. Okay, so reflecting on phase one, first and foremost, this on the right-hand side, ignore that graphic. I mean, the fact is that there's so many reasons to have a folder as to what it wants to contain. Like you'll learn as you work with BIM 360 your folder structure. But on the left-hand side, I am suggesting you think about a couple of things. When it hosting PW models in BIM 360, so PW is Perkins as well, so hosting your model in BIM 360 would just mean there should be no files on your network. That's very important. If you want to benefit from how fast it is to open up a file off of BIM 360, you would do so without any files, without having your Revit model looking to the network at all when it comes to that link content. So anyway, I got to keep working. I just realized how far I am. 12:37. I got to keep moving. Let's go faster. So exchanging models, there's little zero effort when it comes to pushing updated models and receiving updated models from disciplines. I think this is all obvious. We talked about this to no end. I'm going to keep going. Let's keep going. So is it worth it? The innovation here, again, the objectives with the model sharing. There should be no effort once it's posted. Model hosting is just migrating off the network, and there's real little effort to do that. You're just collaborating your model off the network and optimizing FTP functionality. That's just immersing yourself into 2D sheets, being able to access that model without opening up Revit. It's less than an hour worth of effort per project to take advantage of this module. I'm pretty sure it's awesome. Project architects, let's go. Okay, the innovation here is utilizing BIM 360 model coordination module. And doing the model coordination module, we're really trying to simplify the process of clash detection. Okay, so in the past, we've used Navisworks, we've used other resources to take our Revit models, our 3D models, and filter them through some other platform to generate clashes, to create issues, and somehow assign these issues or content to staff or other design team members, so they ultimately satisfy those issues, and then hopefully send updated models. And this whole exhaustive effort that really almost required a third party just to manage it. If you're already hosting your geometry on BIM 360, you can almost just click a button and be benefiting from clash detection. So yes, for the objectives, we're going to use clash detection. Just why not? It's there now. I think that beyond clash detection, all issues concerning the model, even out of a clash, not out of a clash, can be benefit from BIM 360, and even the technical review process. I think the effort it takes to set up model coordination is literally just 1 to 2 hours after the project's been on BIM 360, and the maintenance is maybe an hour prior to each meeting. We'll talk about that. At Perkins and Will, I have more than 50% of our projects taking advantage of this module. Clash detection is still something sometimes hard to sell. To create, the setup is rather minimal to establish model coordination. In this case, it's just activating the model coordination module with the assumption that you purchased it. When you click model coordination and say create, it's just asking for a folder on BIM 360 to pull the clashes out of. Some will point it to the project files folder, which looks at every Revit file under it. Just as you know, if you're pointing to default Revit files from all the consultants, that does take some coordination. You'll have to talk to them and tell them to isolate certain 3D views that have certain content isolated so that you can clash, say, walls and doors versus columns. And I find that that's fine, and in the sense that, like, if you're already doing Navisworks, you probably could already get them to do that. But I also sometimes struggle getting them to get on board. So the workflow I'm going to be proposing today puts the ownership in the designer, the architect's hands, and you can do what you wish when it comes to these 3D views, and the effort's really rather minimal. So, you know, why involve the other disciplines and introduce that user error? So anyway, what you'll find that I do today is I do create a model coordination space, but I created off that model coordination folder I mentioned earlier today. So under my templated folder structure, I do have a model coordination folder. Under that, I have a clash container folder, which is just this one Revit file. Then I have this hosted fix folder, which is basically any file that's not any discipline that's not hosting on BIM 360, but rather uploading on a weekly basis. That folder contains my solution to their problem without hosting. Because unfortunately, to take advantage of model coordination, all the files that you're clashing have to be hosted on BIM 360. There's no choice. So if your disciplines are uploading on a weekly basis, their geometry will not by default be able to be clashed with. It won't. So that's crazy unfortunate, right? Because there are certain people, there are certain companies that are small enough that just honestly can't do the investment right now. And the idea that you can't, clash against their models is crazy unfortunate. So I've created a solution that lends itself to that. So again, I create a clash space looking at a clash container folder or file. And what that really looks like, after you click on the model coordination module, okay, so just know that before you go to model coordination, the way that I've worked this is there's one clash Revit file. That's what I've boxed out right here. And that clash file is looking at all the hosted models live, so no effort there. But it's also looks at these non-hosted models. So if in fact, say the electrical engineer in this case, just say that they're not hosting on BIM 360 for whatever reason, basically I am having to download their file and collaborate their file for them on a weekly or periodic basis under this hosted fixed folder. So I'm not overriding what they're sharing with me. I'm just downloading what they shared with me and then collaborating what they've shared with me. And that's linked into here. So this clash file is looking at all live files and all non-hosted fixed files. So there is an effort on a weekly basis for every non-hosted model to just download and then rehost by yourself as the person that owns a license. It's very, considering the value you're getting when it comes to clashing, I think it's reasonable as far as effort goes. If you go inside that clash.rvt, so again, that's that file right here. If you go inside that file, the way I've broken it down is that I've linked in, this is very blurry, apologize, I thought this is a little clearer. But in this one clash RVT, there's not a single wall drawn or level created or whatever. I've just essentially linked in every single model into this file. And then I created 3D views that isolate that link and the content specific to that link that I'd like to clash against. And then I created a published set that looks at those 3D views. And that's what's clever about this, right? So if you go into any one of my 3D views, like this, in this case, it's the Perkins wall model I'm linking to, and I'm isolating walls and doors. And all that really looks at is like I've clicked the visibility graphics for that 3D view. I've isolated this link, and then I've isolated that category, that series of categories. And as a result, that's what that view holds on to, and that's what I can clash against. So now it's called about, so now that we have these models, these 3D views that are now being ported to the model coordination module, it's about accessing that clash. And what that looks like is going to the model coordination module, right? There are 3 ways they'll view clashes in model coordination. There's models, clashes, and views, as you can see on the top here. If you click on models, you can just pick any series of models. And so looking at this list, you're looking at every 3D view that I created in that clash model. Ever since this particular project launched, we've customized our naming convention so that it wasn't so long. You don't really have a lot of control over how model coordination interprets your 3D views. And so the fewer the words when it comes to each 3D view, all the better, and even the name of the model, so that this is not nearly as overwhelming as like COS_JS_elect_PW_Jane Street _clash detected. That's just too much. So you can simplify that quite a bit. Anyway, so under the models tab, you can select a series of models and just say view. And as a result, you'll see all the clashes amongst those models. You can also go to the clashes tab and just see each model kind of clashing with one other model, and then select that cube there, whether it's 5 clashes, 50 clashes, and you can see those specific clashes specific to those 2 models conflicting. You can also go to the views tab, which is just basically a pre-selected series of models that you can click on. So it's almost like the models tab, but without having to check the models manually. I'm gonna keep burning through it because I know I only have 15 minutes left. Once you select that series of models, you'll find that you're immediately immersed inside of a 3D web interface view where you can just navigate your project. This is so much lighter and easy to navigate than, say, opening up a Revit model and trying to navigate in 3D there. It's just that's going to be lagging. This is a lot faster. And you can see in this case, Danny is navigating the model, trying to break down exactly where issues are. Each one of those circles and blue and yellow are just different issues. We'll talk about them right now. So that's so actually before we talk about them, navigating the models. So when you navigate models, that's really, you have 3 kind of tiers of navigation. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, basic navigation would be just looking at the model, clicking on, say, section cutting. You can cut the model up or down. Again, very easy to see what's going on. Actually, with the sense of time, I'm gonna burn through this. I've already talked too much. I only have 14 minutes left. Just know that it's pretty easy to navigate models. You can section level them. You can browse. You can turn on and off models, much like you turn them on and off in Navisworks. You can even like immerse yourself in the file, which is pretty cool. You can actually just like zoom in and activate gravity, and then you can walk the file as though you were a person and just look around at those clashes that way. It's pretty awesome. All right, so then creating issues. So you have to understand that when it comes to clashes, when it comes to Revit, there could be upwards around 1,000 clashes to any project, right? Tens of thousands of clashes. Like just, and mind you, the tolerances are so rigid. Even though you can now acknowledge some tolerance in model coordination, like you can remove, like for piping, remove like if it's not 2 inches of a tolerance, if it's rather it's not clash within 2 inches, ignore it kind of thing. You can do that stuff, but you have to imagine you probably have a lot of clashes to deal with. If that's the case, what that likely is the case, you just acknowledge those clashes that you care about by assigning them to the issues. So cycle through the clashes, click on the issue button, and then you make it out of 1,000 clashes, maybe you only have 100 issues. As you can see here, that's what I'm doing. So I've clicked on the clash, acknowledge it as an issue. I say create issue, so be it, creates an issue. You can also look at any PDF or 3D view. So it doesn't have to be specific to model coordination. You can look at a PDF instead of document management. You can look at you could click a Revit file in document management, look at a perspective and see an issue. And in every one of these environments, you always have this little emergency icon with a triangle around it. You click on that and you can say acknowledge issue. And all these issues, whether through model coordination, through PDFs, or through 3D views, they all go to the same kind of bucket of issues later on that you can easily navigate to. So just create an issue in any of these scenarios. Once you create all these issues, you're welcome to go to the issue module. I'm sorry, document management module under issues, and you can see all the issues created no matter what platform they were created in. You can create a brand new issue via the document management module which has no context at all. So maybe you're just thinking about something that's like, instead of creating an email, I just want to think about and share with a client or discipline something later on and create an issue. And it's totally arbitrary. You type in what type of issue maybe it is and so forth and so on. When it comes to issue accountability, that's all about project management. I tend to think that lends itself to the last phase, but you don't have to fully go into project management to still benefit from issue collaboration, but I do have to keep going through this because I want to give some time for questions. I am so sorry for all of a sudden having to go quickly. So project architects, is it worth it? Once your file is hosted on BIM 360 or even uploaded, it takes less than an hour to do clash detection on a weekly basis. Like it's crazy not to benefit from that. Even if half the clashes are a wash, you can easily sort the clashes and filter them down to find out where the most beneficial clashes are to acknowledge well before you go into construction. The maintenance and the effort is just so minimal. It's crazy not to take advantage. Project managers, let's keep doing this. All right, so the innovation here is basically it's cross-module functionality. You're no longer caring about whether it's in document management that you're creating an issue or clash detection, you're creating an issue, or whatever. Project management, I think the value there is using the Insight module. All right, again, I think that's a free module for that matter. And it looks at the project in its entirety and looks at all the issues in their entirety and helps you create action items. So instead of creating an agenda via some Word document shy of a meeting and saying, oh, we should talk about these things, let's just say, you know what, let's wait till the meeting, let's go live, let's filter the issues, those that are still open and sort by discipline and talk about it that way. Maybe that's a little more constructive. You can close issues just in that moment, just the same. I think the setup is less than an hour and maintenance is fully automated. There's no maintenance at all. So yeah, let's keep going. So again, the goal here is to simplify meeting preparation and conversation and ensure accountability on project tasks. That's another great thing about using issues in the 360. Accountability is a guarantee. There's no forgetting that an email passed you later on. So we've talked about all the other project workflows when it comes to creating issues. Now it's all about issue accountability. You can filter it live. So on the document management module, you can go to the issues tab and just using the left-hand side, clicking filter, you can isolate categories of issues. If they're associated to clashes, associated to coordination or whatever, you filter those issues. You can then filter them to say, only look at the opened ones or the answered ones you just want to confirm. And once you've done that, you can then select the issue on the right-hand side here. And as you'll see here, you'll see the issue, you'll see any linked documents that are associated with the issue, like even the live Revit files. You can add attachments like sketches, things like that. You can do activity. You can, at this point, you can attention somebody to say, hey, look, I need your help on this issue. It's a send. They'll get email notification. They'll link them back to this issue. It's all super great. All the while, you can say then at one point, this has been answered, it's closed, all that good stuff. So super great, filtering live. The Insight module, again, so like document management, model coordination, you click on the Insight module. What's cool about that is that you can then like create these little like customized cards that like isolate issues specific to company or like looking at all the issues, like how many are specific to a company or how many issues are like have been solved per discipline, all that good stuff. It's all dynamic, all live linked. It's all good stuff. You could also, what we've done in the past is created reports that are scheduled to be sent to, say, each discipline every Monday, say 2 days prior to a weekly meeting. And these reports are, oops, a daisy. Oops, wow, I went right to the end there, didn't I? Look at that. So excited. Couldn't do that. Golly, let's keep going. Almost at the end. I know we're excited. At least I am. Come on. Oh no. All right, this is what so when you issue a report, a PDF is sent every Monday, same morning, isolating the live issues that are specific to that discipline, and maybe they can let them click and like even click on the links associated with those issues, taking them to the actual issue itself where they can comment on it. And the whole idea is giving them a couple of days prior to the actual weekly meeting to solve the issue, right? So anyways, it's pretty awesome, pretty live. Model coordination view, that's just going to the views, and every time you access a model, it will say any live issue that's associated with that model, which is pretty cool. So you'll see whether I'm looking at model coordination or even a Revit model. If I go to issues, it will tell me anybody whether they linked it via model coordination or any other 3D view. It will say, hey, look, somebody has a problem with this project, whether this file, the specific element that you can address at that moment. All right, I'm going to burn right through it. Looks like this. It's all good stuff. I think. Yeah, so the whole goal again for project management is like, can I remove this need for meeting minutes and agenda, like let all your action items, let everything feed through issues, so that you're not like arbitrarily coming up with some meeting agenda and trying to like issue action items afterwards. Like they're all the action items are live. It's through the insight through issues, and I don't know. I tend to think it can hopefully streamline all that good stuff. I think giving myself 7 minutes. Before 7 minutes, okay, so some closing remarks. All right. So my immediate focus was on efficiency, minimize the time and effort in design collaboration. I'm pretty sure we've done that. Consistency, design application, tool belt simplification. All that really means is removing other applications like Navisworks and relying on, hey, if you're already on BIM 360, do Clash on BIM 360. The accountability, there's so many different ways to respond to an issue, and they all go the same way on BIM 360. It's a guarantee. You're not using like Teams messaging or Skype or Outlook, all these other things. You're just using one portal that honestly notifies all those other portals of when there's a concern. You can always link back. If you're familiar with The Office, this reminds me a little bit of what's his name, Ryan's like Woof, like you're notifying everybody through like off scanner, whatever. Fun little anecdote there. And the phase breakdown. Hopefully, what you picked up from this is that if you do phase 1, then 2, then 3, they're all digestible. You're not asking you're kind of building upon the previous phase. That's all fine. Let's just go into it. Closing remarks. Let's just talk about it. I got questions. Let's do it. I got Q&A here. So I see chat. Let's get that. If you have any questions, Justin, during the presentation, you can even create documentary templates to. Yes, you can. Can you link DWGs from advanced steel or? Yeah. So when it comes to 3D CAD file or other CAD files, just please, for the love of God, upload those files to BIM 360. And when you do it, you've got to click on this. So go to a folder. So under architecture, like for Perkins and Will, we have a CAD links folder. If you go there, or if it's a civil folder for that matter, when you click on upload, the default is upload files. If you click on the drop down next to upload files, it says upload linked files. Only if you upload files via upload linked files can you actually browse them in Revit and link them into your project. I wish I've even asked Autodesk to make a default upload linked files. If not, just purge upload files by its. I don't honestly see the value of just uploading a file. I figured just make everything an upload linked file, and you're getting all the benefits for an upload linked file. I'm sure there's a value to upload file, but I'd say when it comes to CAD files, just make sure when you upload them in BIM 360, say upload linked files so that you can link to them. It's all good stuff. What do you do when you work with another design team or GC that wants to host a model on their hub? You just say no. Absolutely not. No. I mean, it's no a lot. Sorry. I mean, if you're the architect, you own this environment. If the GC wants your file, just say, look, you're welcome to create your own hub in this case, if that's what you just are insistent upon doing, and download our files and upload them manually at your leisure. But we're not going to go ahead and try to streamline this for you. You're more inclined to just invite. If you have the ability to have a hub on your own account, you already have licenses to BIM 360. So you can benefit completely by just being invited to our network. So if you're the owner, if you're the architect, everybody else, no. I mean, yeah. I mean, there are nuances to that, but yeah. What do you do? Oh, sorry. The recording for this presentation should be on YouTube by the end of the week. Yep. Thoughts on desktop connector. I've heard others do not use. Oh, desktop connector. There's actually no choice but to use it. You have to use it. There's no choice but to use it. So anybody that would suggest, Desktop connector is giving you the ability to link in these CAD files. So content that's not hosted on BIM 360. So if it's a Revit file that's being uploaded weekly, or if it's a CAD file for that matter, you only can link to it through desktop connector. There's no choice. If you don't have desktop connector, you can only access content that's collaborated on BIM 360 natively, which that's just too limited. So desktop connector is a free, it's install. I mean, granted, it does a lot of updates. It's infuriating and how often they update it, and as a result, you have to keep doing these updates. But you have no choice. If you want to link to content that's not hosted on BIM 360, you have no choice. There's Q&A. Sorry, I did that differently. Did you map out explicitly which BIM 360 functions you wanted the teams to manage versus the parts you set up in the management for the project teams? Honestly, I think that our strategy when it came to BIM 360, by the way, I'm definitely going to go over 1 o'clock. I'm okay with that. I'm going to stay online. At Justin Roberts, is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. If we go a little bit over, that's totally cool.
All right, I'm just going to respond to these one at a time if I can. If I can't, I'll just push it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. All right. So when it came to how we rolled out BIM 360, you have to understand that in the beginning, we definitely had a strategy well over 2 years ago to adopt BIM 360, but we weren't nearly as aggressive about it until the pandemic happened. 2 weeks shy of the pandemic, we said, look, people are going to be working from home. We feel this coming. Let's act and let's just get our content on the cloud so people can access it seamlessly from home. And so we just hightailed it. We did this. Now, having said that, the folder structure, the permissions, what we hosted up there outside of Revit files was all we learned as we went. So to suggest to you that we took a lot of time strategizing up front would be lying. We learned a lot as we went. I would say my best recommendation when it comes to folder structures and being prepared is that 1, have a folder per discipline and only host the live Revit file per folder. When it comes to the folder structure, just, we had 1 folder per discipline, and just make it so that you can edit that folder. Talk to me one-on-one. We can even talk more of that in detail. Do you integrate the usage of BIM 360 in your project BIM plan? 100%. Your digital execution plan has to acknowledge BIM 360. This is how you share files. You are 100% not going to go old school and FTP site share this stuff. This is where people get their content. Everybody has to have access. There's no denying it. Which also, by the way, I just mentioned this. You can access the any usage, when anybody accesses your project on BIM 360, it's viewed and tracked under project admin. You can look at people that download the content, when they download it, by who. You can look at people that edit the content, who edited it, when they edited it, when they opened it, when they closed it. All the stuff you'd have access to when it comes to any other SharePoint location, you would now have access also in BIM 360. So just make it so that everybody uses that platform, and you definitely have control over when things are actually visible, accessible, and when things are actually downloaded. I'm concerned with speeds of saves. Oh my God, the person that said that, bless your heart. If you are concerned about saving in BIM 360, you're going to be so pleasantly relieved. So when you open up a project in BIM 360, the very first time that happens, it's going to take a second. It's going to cache everything to the local drive, and it's going to take a little while for it to open initially. But then future opens and future syncs to central are only going to take the amount of time it takes to acknowledge the changes that you made in the file. So it's pretty awesome. You're going to find, like when I say visibly, the first time you open a file, it could take upwards around 4 to 10 minutes. The next time, 30 seconds. And to sync to central, it's going to be so much faster than you've ever felt on your network. And that's even if you're in the studio. I'm telling you, again, I don't work for Autodesk, but I'm telling you, you're going to feel it and you're going to like it. I thought live linking, you still have to reload the link models after changes. If not, so yeah, kind of, sort of. I feel like I'm going back and forth in these conversations here. Live linking, so if you close the model, reopen it, it would just update. If you reload the model manually, it will also update, but you don't have to. The manual refresh, reload, it would happen when you open up the file next. How is this different than current construction cloud at ADS build? I don't know enough about that, Jason. I'm sorry. Let's ping ETG. You mentioned new format earlier. Do you have your teams post milestone PDFs to BIM 360 or create record documents? What happened? I thought live linking. You mentioned new format earlier. So no, new format still exists at Perkins and Will, but we're basically purging it out. All major milestones. So I honestly think you can handle it via BIM 360, but we do have SharePoint, and I think that teams still feel comfortable having some separate location to somehow manage these issue milestones. So if I were super honest with everybody, they use SharePoint to do major milestones, but there's no reason why you can't. You can actually create a transmittal off of content in BIM 360. It's pretty awesome. Looking at your desktop. So apparently my video has failed. I don't know. Okay. Do you direct your teams to create sheet set for every major milestone or revision? You can. It doesn't necessarily. So there are sheet sets and publish sets. Sheet sets, still create them and have it so it's easy to print them out via Revit. Publish sets, that's totally unique. So when you go to publish sets, you'll see all of your existing sheet sets that you've created in your project, but until you check them, they won't publish by default. So have as many publish sets as you want, or sheet sets as you want. Just only select, when it comes to publish sets, the ones that are critical to uploading. And remember, the fewer the sheets or the views that you have, the faster it's going to take to publish. Do your project teams utilize the issues module in BIM 360 and issues? Oh yeah, they do. So the question is that there are issues in BIM 360, and now Revit's just recently come out with. I don't know if you guys can see my son apparently in the background. My wife is sending me screenshots of what you guys can see. Whatever, I'm gonna just keep going through this. So yeah, when it comes to sheet sets, just have the critical views you need. I'm sorry, I feel like I already talked about that. Oh, I'm sorry, the Revit add-on. So the next one. Do your project teams utilize issues module in BIM 360 and issues for Revit add-on? So they're the same thing, just that we're clear. If you create an issue via the Revit add-on, it links to an issue in BIM 360 and vice versa. So if someone creates an issue associated to your Revit model in BIM 360, it will show up if you have the Revit add-on installed. And you can comment it on Revit. Like it's all seamless. It's all super connected. And from what I can tell, I haven't found a hiccup. I haven't found a hiccup at all. So use it. Install the Revit add-in. It's free and it links to BIM 360 and you can see all the issues. You can jump to them. In fact, what's nice about jumping to them in Revit add-in is that you can actually act on the issue in Revit and have it seamlessly update in BIM 360. So all the better value. So that's pretty cool there. You do setup coordination in the same location as your design model location. You do setup coordination in the same location. I don't know, Dan. I fully register what you're asking there. I don't know if we can unmute you. I'm going to leave that there for a second. I'm going to go to the next one. We do most of our project review markup extension with 2D plans using Bluebeam PDF now. Looks like all the good review tools are part of the build module with this issue. RFI's build tools. You experience? Yeah, you're not going to have the value of Bluebeam inside of BIM 360. I don't have a clear, definitive line as to where I tell people to use Bluebeam sessions versus BIM 360 issues. It would be ideal if BIM 360 the markup tools in BIM 360 could do everything that the Bluebeam sessions could do, but they just can't yet. I would suggest that if, I push people to do BIM 360 issues over Bluebeam because it's just one portal for everything versus, okay, sometimes my comments are here, sometimes my comments are there. I honestly, I'd be lying to you if I was clear about how to move on this. Just Bluebeam, it's like this robust annotative tool that lends itself to shared collaboration for PDFs. It's super awesome. Issues is ramping up. I hope that at some point Bluebeam issues and markup tool has the same functionality as the sessions does. What are the biggest limitations you see for someone moving from Navisworks to coordinate? You're not going to have nearly as much functionality when it comes to model coordination as in Navisworks. Now, they just added tolerance. So in the past, there was what do they call hard versus soft clashes in Navisworks. That was the biggest limitation. Navisworks, you could acknowledge that there is a hard clash would be two things properly conflicting or in conflict, and then a soft clash would be a tolerance, I need 3 inches of space or a foot of space off of whatever I am. You can do that now in BIM 360, but you're not gonna have viewpoints. I would argue that if you're a CM, you're gonna feel limited in model coordination. But when it comes to clash detection as it relates to design, like early design, it's just so a part of BIM 360 that you're gonna see value. And maybe if you're going from Navisworks to model coordination, you're gonna be feel a little bit like handcuffed, but there's still some value there. I don't know. I think that it's just so native that it's almost hard not to take advantage of and so easy to navigate. But you're not, Navisworks has like the rules, everything that you can do in Navisworks is just better. How do you see the future of using the services on BIM 360 between different project team members, like RFIs for contractors? Is a handoff a certain project point where the hub changes perhaps? So you should know there's plenty of other modules in BIM 360. There's like project management, I don't know, construction administration. I don't know. There's all sorts of other modules that you have to pay for. The only challenge with those other modules that lend themselves to RFIs and submittals is that you, unlike document management, the document management module that I've talked about pretty much exclusively today, you can invite anybody to participate, and maybe they're limited as far as being able to host versus not host because they don't have a subscription. They can still participate, even comment and issues, is all good stuff. But with the other modules that I haven't talked about today that lend themselves to the CA environment, everybody has to have a license to participate, and I find that incredibly limiting. So, and even more forward, maybe I shouldn't even speak to this at all. As much as I've flavored these project management modules, I haven't used them on projects. So when it comes to CA, we still use like if the contractor is pushing Procore, eBuilder, we're still using them as your primary tool for CA. But yeah, does your son like BIM 360 as much as you do? Matt Peterman, that's a coworker. Yeah, he will. All right, that's all I got. Anything else? I don't know if you guys can still hear me. I know that you can hear me, but I don't know if I can hear you, judging by. I'm gonna say thank you very much for everybody for listening in. This was fun for me. Hopefully it was decent for you guys. My name is Justin Benjamin. I'm on LinkedIn. You're welcome to ping me. It's justin.benjamin@perkinsandwill.com. I'd be happy to field more questions. Clearly, I'm pumped about this topic.